Now, for the first time since 2016, the New York Football Giants are back in the playoffs. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the New York Giants Road to the Super Bowl. I'm Sam Ryan, and we have a full slate of Giants coverage coming your way. I sit down with starting quarterback Daniel Jones, plus Giants legend and radio voice Carl Banks joins us. But first, we're going to send it right out to Ryan Fields, who is cold as he is outside U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota, right, to say the least, on the eve of the wild card game between the Giants and the Vikings. Right, Ryan?
Cold, chilly, freezing, all the above, Sam. And I think I speak for media types, players, fans, coaches, everybody when I say that it's a good thing this game will be indoors tomorrow. And it's a good thing for the Giants. They were just here. Heck, it was just 3 weeks ago. They lost a heartbreaker to the Vikings here at U.S. Bank Stadium. Will things be different for Big Blue this time around? They sure hope so. We do know this much. The playoff experience is going to be different for most of these Giants players. That's why Brian Daboll and the Giants coaching staff have done a good job all week of keeping things the same.
All our preparation will be geared towards that team. They're a fantastic team. Obviously, there's only 6 games this weekend, so we all understand that. But it's a privilege to be in the playoffs, to have an opportunity to compete.
You know, the only way we're going to play as well as we want to play is to prepare how we have all year, to trust our process. I talked to Strahan when he was here not too long ago, and I asked him, I was like, what's really the difference between playoff football? He's obviously, like, the intensity rises and all that, but the best advice he gave me was just don't make the game bigger than it needs to be.
Only 17 of the 53 active players in the Giants roster have playoff experience. Saquon does not, neither does Daniel Jones. How much will that be a factor tomorrow? We shall see. We know this much. We'll be back with predictions for the big game coming up later on in the show. Until then, Sam, we'll send it back to you.
Yeah, stay warm. We'll check in with you a little bit later, Ryan. Thank you. It is a clean slate now in the playoffs, but a 9-7-1 record is what brought the Giants here. A season that began with questions and uncertainty, a new coach, a new system, and a quarterback in his 4th year with a whole lot to prove. Let's take a look back at the Giants' road to the postseason. He made an instant statement the morning of his introductory press conference. Brian Daboll rolling into the Giants facility in a bright blue pickup truck, no one knowing what to expect from the first-year head coach and the Giants' new system. The Giants proved this season would be different in the first game of the season, rallying from 13 points down on the road to come back and beat the Titans. Daboll could have gone for the tie and sent the game to overtime, but he set the tone for the entire season, calling for the gutsy 2-point conversion with just over a minute left.
Giants take the lead.
Big Blue was 2-1 when Daniel Jones was limited with an ankle injury in the Week 4 game against the Bears, so Saquon Barkley stepped up with 146 rushing yards, a game which saw him taking direct snaps in a Wildcat offense. Giants off to a 3-1 start, and the momentum would build. Big Blue traveled across the pond to London to take on the Packers. Jones, still dealing with that ankle injury, rushed for 37 yards and would lead 3 scoring drives. The 4-1 Giants win on the international stage. This season saw a healthy Saquon Barkley carrying a career-high 35 times for 152 yards in the Week 10 win over the Texans as they improved to 7-2, its best start since 2008. On the defensive end, Dexter Lawrence solidified himself as one of the league's premier defensive linemen, earning himself a trip to the Pro Bowl, while first-round draft pick Kayvon Thibodeau came on strong late in the season to put up impressive rookie numbers. It wasn't all positive, though, still looking for their first divisional win of the season when they hosted the Commanders to open December. A fourth-quarter comeback by Washington saw these two teams finish in an underwhelming tie. The Giants were blown out by division rival and top-seeded Eagles, and yeah, there was that stinging loss at Minnesota on Christmas Eve on a 61-yard field goal as time expired. But then the Giants with a convincing win over the Colts, and cue the Gatorade bath. Big Blue is back in the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Let's look back and play more to come on the road to the Super Bowl coming up as we look ahead. What's it going to take for the Giants to pull off the first-round upset? We'll break down the keys to the game. And also still ahead, we go one-on-one with the man under center for Big Blue. I sit down with Daniel Jones right after the break.
Barring a defensive foul, the game ends here to the end zone. Hernandez is there. Tipped and batted. Gronkowski can't get it. Incomplete. And the New York Giants, given last rites by many in December, are the Super Bowl champs in February.
Welcome back. I'm joined now by the quarterback of the New York Giants, Daniel Jones. Daniel, exciting week to say the least here, but Coach, he likes to preach consistency, and we've seen that. But what for you in your preparation for this game have you done differently?
Not a whole lot, to be honest. I think, we understand, it's playoffs now and the implications of these games. You win or you go home, and we all get that. But in order to play our best and to do what we need to do, we've got to go through our process, through our routine, and what's gotten us to this point. So for us, it's the same process. It's the same, same week of preparation that we're used to.
How helpful is it, and I know it was a heartbreaking loss 3 weeks ago in Minnesota, and it can be said for both teams, but how helpful is that to just have seen them as far as the preparation?
Yeah, I think there's certainly some things we can look back on that game and, things we could have done better, things we could clean up, and we'll look to do that certainly in this game and give ourselves, the opportunity to make a few more plays. And yeah, it's helpful to kind of see how you match up against their scheme, against their defense, and we'll use a lot of it, in preparation for this game, and our game plan will certainly be largely based off that game.
How do you describe playing in that atmosphere in that building?
It was a great atmosphere. They've got great fans, bring great energy. It's a nice stadium. It's a new stadium, so. Yeah, we enjoyed playing there. We'll be prepared for the noise, be prepared for the, for all that, that the crowd brings. So we're excited.
A lot of noise pumped up in practice during the week. Now, back to Brian Daboll and this system. Oh, by the way, week 1, you guys went out and really made a statement. Everyone goes back to going for 2 instead of the extra point. And as far as the aggressive play there, what do you like about playing in this system?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think as players, you want to be in a position to make a big play, and you want the coach to give you those opportunities to do that. So he's certainly done that throughout the year. The Tennessee example is certainly a situation where he did that. So I think that's been great for all of us. We've all enjoyed those opportunities, and yeah, it's been a fun year. We've learned a lot. I think we've improved a lot. Looking back to week 1, I think we're a different team now, but it's been a fun year.
A lot has been made of your growth as well, and I mentioned the new system, new coach. There's new GM also. Did you feel any added pressure that you needed to prove to them who you are and what you're capable of, not just for the team and to get to this point, but for your future?
No, I think, my approach was always to handle my business and to prepare and play as well as I possibly can, regardless of what's going on outside or what's changed or what's different. I think for me it was about, keeping focused on what I needed to do, and I felt like that was the best way to put myself in a position, for the best outcome. So that was always my approach, and that's not going to change.
And now you're here in the playoffs for the first time in your career. Any advice that you took from anyone who's been there? Did you reach out to someone, or did someone reach out to you in the best piece of advice?
I think just talking to some of the coaches who've been in the playoffs, some of the older players who've played in playoff games, big games. People talk about the speed of the game increasing, and some of that stuff. I think they talk about the one play here or there. Every team's good. There's a reason they're playing in the playoffs. So each play is just that much more critical, and that doesn't change anything in how we prepare or how we approach the game. But I think just understanding that piece of it, you're going against good opponents, and there's a lot at stake. So we know that, but our preparation won't change.
Much more ahead after the break. These two teams met on Christmas Eve, but we'll take another look at the head-to-head matchup as the Giants and Vikings get set for Super Wildcard Weekend.
1st and 10. Hampton hits the carry. Is off to the races. Hampton still on his feet. Rodney Hampton, touchdown Giants. 51-yard sprint by Rodney Hampton.
The memories and so many memorable ones in this Giants-Vikings rivalry. Specifically in the playoffs, they've met 3 times in the postseason, with Big Blue winning 2 of them. The big one coming in the 2000 NFC Championship game when the Giants blew out the Vikings 41-0. As for the most recent matchup, Giants fans remember it like it was yesterday, because it almost was. It was 3 weeks ago. Minnesota kicking a game-winning 61-yard field goal as time expired to beat the Giants on Christmas Eve. No doubt New York will be looking for redemption Sunday afternoon. So the Giants finished the season 9-7-1, while the Vikings won the NFC North with a record of 13-4. Very different numbers there, but these 2 teams won their games in similar fashion. Late dramatics in the games with little margin for error, and that would lead both teams making the playoffs with negative point differential. That would make this just the 4th playoff game ever between teams with negative point differential in the regular season. And how about the quarterbacks? Daniel Jones making his playoff debut against Kirk Cousins, who is 1-3 in the postseason. Here are the numbers this season. Cousins nearly doubled Jones's touchdown totals. He's beat him in passing yards too, but look at the interceptions. Brian Daboll got Jones to cut down significantly on his turnovers this season, while Cousins has struggled protecting the ball, and Big Blue will be looking to put the pressure on the Vikings quarterback.
It's an interesting matchup because obviously Kirk Cousins has had kind of a checkered playoff history, and Daniel Jones has no playoff history. Kirk Cousins, again, he's a guy who gets knocked a lot. He puts up big numbers, and he has some great weapons to throw to. So they do need to do a better job keeping him in check. Not going to be easy to do when you have Justin Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson, some of the weapons he has.
And, of course, this matchup featuring 2 of the league's best stars, Saquon Barkley and Justin Jefferson, each player in their team's greatest offensive threat there. This game could come down to which defense figures out how to shut down the other team's superstar.
I think it's key with Saquon Barkley. Remember, he had the bye basically last week. He had the week off. He did not play against the Eagles. When he had the bye earlier this year, he had his season high in yards against the Houston Texans. So fresh running back means good running back, especially when it's a player of Saquon Barkley's talent.
And we'll be keeping an eye on that. And if there's one person who knows that the Giants have what it takes to beat the Vikings, tomorrow it's Carl Banks. The former All-Pro won 2 Super Bowls with Big Blue. He's been covering the team for more than 15 years. Ryan Field caught up with the Giants legend for his take on the game.
There's obviously some level of surprise that the Giants are in this position after the way the last 6 years have gone. Are you surprised, and what has surprised you most about this team this season?
Well, I think pleasantly surprised because we were all this time last year looking forward to the draft, trying to figure out how to improve the team. And I think when they hired Joe Schoen and Coach Daboll, the mandate was to get the team better, clean up the salary cap, and show improvement, right? Well, their mandate was a little different than the expectations of the fans because they had a plan, and the players, coaches, and their management seemed to be interconnected, and that's why we're seeing the results that we're seeing. The beautiful part about it, too, the Giant fan base has embraced this. And I joke a lot on my radio show, not so jokingly, that MetLife Stadium became an Airbnb for opposing teams after October or after Halloween. For the last 6 or 7 years, you go into the stadium, it's most of the opponents. This year, it's home again. You know, the fans have been just incredible, and I think the team has reciprocated.
There's no question about that, and now they go on the road for this huge playoff game. Brian Daboll, Kevin O'Connell, both first-year head coaches in a big playoff game. Who do you think has the advantage in that matchup?
I don't think the moment will be too big for either coach. They know how to prepare their teams, and it's just going to come down to whether or not they execute. I think, to use a boxing phrase, the Giants felt Minnesota's punch, so they know what they're going into. A game that, you know, was won by a 61-yard field goal, so they should feel at least confident that they're going to compete and give themselves a chance to win.
In that game, Christmas Eve, Kirk Cousins, a fellow former Spartan, almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. What can the Giants better do to keep him in check this time around?
Listen, it's the NFL. It's a passing league now. You're going to give up some yards. I think priority number one is making sure Justin Jefferson doesn't ruin the game for you. He's just too good to, like, eliminate from the game. You're not going to stop him. But you want to try to keep him out of the end zone.
Speaking of quarterbacks, what are your expectations for Daniel Jones here in his first career playoff game?
The one thing about Daniel Jones is the mental maturity, and he's a lot like Eli Manning. He doesn't go up and down. He's not this emotional guy. He's the steady leader by example, and I think their mantra is whatever it took to win the first game, it's going to take the same thing to win the next game. So he kind of typifies that. He's a guy that just shows up, works hard.
Finally, you've played in a ton of playoff games in your career. What's going through these guys' minds leading up to kickoff, and how much different is this than the regular season?
It's different because it's one game elimination. There's no next week. It's only next year after this game if you lose. I think there's some excitement. There's probably excited about the unknown until they realize it's just football, and they've already seen this team before. But I think, again, this has been a team that has not allowed a lot of distractions, right? They've been pretty close-knit, and all the questions that aren't related to winning, they don't seem to entertain. So I think they'll be fine. I think they should be excited, right? They've earned it, right? But I think probably starting today, or at least when they get on that plane tomorrow, they'll be all business.
We've got much more ahead, including predictions for Sunday's big game from some folks you may recognize. Stick around.
Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Super Bowl 42 was one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. We all remember Michael Strahan on the Giants with just minutes to go, telling his teammates and the final score would be 17-14. Well, he was right. What better way to wrap things up with some predictions of our own? We're going to bring back in Ryan Fields. He warmed up a little bit right in Minnesota.
We tried to, Sam. The question is, how hot is my pick? We're about to find out. Before we get to my prediction, we went to some of our friends at ABC, and as well as a couple of familiar faces you might recognize, to see what they think about the big game tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so we are predicting Giants versus the
Jets are going to lose.
Okay.
You're going to make me play villain here?
Yep. I'm going with that.
Anything else?
My prediction.
I got to go with the Giants.
Giants!
Giants!
It's going to be a blowout.
The Giants are going to win over the Vikings.
I'm thinking 21-13 Giants.
Let's say 27-23.
Giants victory.
24-0 Giants.
This is it, my man Saquon. You are the purple people eater.
I'm picking the Vikings in another tight game.
Score? Don't have a score. Giants victory.
I'll go with 27-24.
Whatever it takes, I believe they'll win this game.
I'm going with the Giants. They pull out a win, 27-23.
Don't want to be a jinx, but trust me, Big Blue is going to beat Big Purple.
I'm going to go 24-21.
You got it, Giants.
Let's win.
And I'm cheating. Go Giants, we love you. Woo! Go Giants.
Oh, that's a nice step forward, Giants, but they're 1-0 in the playoffs. 28-17 Minnesota, but probably a Giants-Patriots Super Bowl next season.
Hey, look, the AccuWeather forecast is never wrong, so Lee Goldberg might be onto something for next season, but we're still talking about this season. Look, the Vikings are a 3-point favorite. The Giants, a very sexy pick amongst NFL experts across the league to win this game tomorrow. I think they do just that, Sam. I think they spring the upset. The exact same score as the Christmas Eve contest. Giants win it 27-24 on a last-second Graham Gano field goal, and they advance to face the Philadelphia Eagles in the next round. What say you, Sam Ryan?
Okay, turning the tables there. The score, I have no idea, but I'm going to guess and say 2016. Going with the Giants. Big game, just like Mr. Mayor said, for Saquon Barkley. He will have a big game, a breakout one in this one tomorrow. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow throughout the day with reports from Minnesota. And that'll do it for Road to the Super Bowl wildcard preview. The Giants meet the Vikings tomorrow afternoon in Minnesota. Full report Sunday right here on Channel 7. Until then, have a great one.